Hey everyone, it is Fabulous Friday with Sandy. And today we're talking about, I had to look because, man, I'll tell you, things are just like, it's like a
Happening
sieve
to a
in
lot of
here
us
these
right now.
days. Yeah, it's definitely the energies. But we're talking about self-leadership.
Totally.
What a important topic right now, because that is something we not only need right now, but we need it going forward in the new earth, whatever we're walking into. That is the key, is self leadership.
And too many people are focused on past pains and sufferings or what other people are doing. And they're distracting themselves from finding their higher potential, their highest abilities, what they're here to do. So, and we have to lead ourselves. There's no one person out there qualified to do it for us. And this is what the whole push is for finding, people want to know who they are and why they're here. Right?
Right.
You only get that from going within. And I want to talk a bit about good and evil, because some things have come up for me this week that it's funny, within a day I cleared it. But our job is to find out who we are and why we're here. Evil's job is to keep us from finding out who we are and why we're here. So there's a lot of manipulation, a lot of trickery, as you call it, fuckery, mind fuckery. All that stuff is happening right now. It's our job to sort through. I don't care who's out there. Don't take my word for anything. Learn how to find it for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where we're going. It's interesting. I'm working with one particular person, and she's not here to do a lot of clearing per se, but she's here to learn about the consciousness movement and how to strengthen herself. And she got the card deception yesterday, and I just laughed because I've been through some of it this week. Right. And anyways, so we started, I asked her who she thought was deceiving her, who she had to watch for. And she came up with a couple names. And I said, okay, now I want you to stand up and muscle test yourself. Was it one of them, the other, or both? Or is there more? She tests herself and goes, both. And there's more. It's everyone. Okay, so now you know that you're on, that they are sensing your light. They know who you are. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting. We started talking later on, and I'd mentioned she goes, as she had cleared things, she got a stab in the back, and she went, ooh. So she cleared it, and somebody came right in with a knife to stab her right back energetically, because they had an attachment to her. So
absolutely. Isn't it funny? I actually want to, just because what I have noticed even in my own practice is as soon as you start clearing, they can energetically feel it. Good morning, Dave and Robin. They do. They can feel it, and they come back at you real fast, because it's like they actually feel like a separation.
How dare you wake up and separate from me? I siphon off of you. You are on my platter of energy. Whatever.
And so we have to be really careful and watchful of that. And I had a client the other day, and it was exactly the same thing. It's people were attacking because of her light.
And they're attacking because you're light, and they're attacking because you're waking up and no longer playing their game. Yeah. So let me finish with this woman. So she felt the knife in her back, and I go, who is it? And I know her well enough. She lets me read. And I said, is it somebody where you live? And she just perked right up. And then I left the room and let her test. So just to make sure my energy wasn't interfering. When I came back in, she goes, I know who it is. I didn't ask who it is. I don't care personally. My goal is to help her figure out how to read the energy, know when it's happening, and how to clear it on your own. So I helped her clear it, just to show her different techniques of how to do that. Right. But she can fill herself up with her own love and light again and make herself whole. And okay. So I can't believe I'm going to say this, but what came up? So I'm looking at a lot of protocols that have been established in the last 50 years, whether 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago, it doesn't matter. The energy was slower then. The protocols required slower solutions, but now everything is speeding up. And what I got for her was, everybody is kung fu fighting. Wah, 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 wah. And she looks at me, and I'm like, I must look like I'm crazy, but she has so much energy, people around her, that she's got to really learn how to scatter her energy to keep people from being able to find her. We've had such a good laugh about this, right? It came up like 3 times in the session. Wah, 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 wah. It's great news for everybody to be able to know just to scatter your energy, or clap. Shake up the sound frequencies so they can't find you energetically. Do things you wouldn't normally do, right? But it's just an interesting, what do you call it? Like for her awareness to be able to do it for herself and go, I know who it is. She didn't tell me. I didn't ask. I honestly don't care. It's about each of us learning how to do this for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Look at this. You got an implant back there too. I hit a nerve.
Yep. No, it's true, because I I in my practice, I do the same thing. It's like I try to teach people at the same time. Yeah, I'm going to clear stuff.
Clear,
but I mean, teach you how to like figure these things out for yourself, because
totally.
I don't want to be anybody's crutch. You know,
it's not about being anybody's crutch. We are in for a shit show of dark energies trying to take us out.
But at the same time, people will like latch on to people who've helped them. And I really want people, it goes back to what we're talking about, that self-leadership is when you give them the tools, even when you're not around, they can do it themselves. And it gives confidence. It's that confidence building that, yeah, I can do this.
And if they want to keep coming to you to do it, when you've shown them how to do it, they're siphoning you, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
So I need you to clear me. No, you're going to clear yourself today. And if you say that a few times to them, I'll show you how to do it, but you're going to clear yourself. Then they either stop coming to you to get you to do their lifting for them, or they embrace what you're giving them for information.
Yeah. Hey, and everybody needs, every once in a while, if there's just something you're just not getting it. And so, yeah, you do need somebody else, and that's fine.
Right.
I really, all I want is people to be self-empowered. And
it's not one or the other. It's just to know when it's genuine. Like there's times I've needed a hand. It is genuine, but I don't need it all the time, right? Hey, Ken, how you doing?
Yeah, we've got Amber, and I can't, SRS. I can't
Amber, I can see her join us too. I can't remember SR5. I can't remember who that is. So
you gave us your name and I forgot. I'm sorry. Again, brain sieve today. This actually last couple of weeks.
This is happening to everybody for different reasons, because the energies are changing. And with those changes in the energy, that our stomachs are changing, our organs are shifting. So people are feeling aches and pains in their body that don't belong. Like it's just part of the shift that's happening. And this is why we're talking about self-leadership. While everybody's watching what is going on and what the truthers are saying, or whatever labels you give anybody else, we're missing the boat, because it's about us. It's about each of us learning how to empower ourselves to be the leaders within and learn to trust ourselves and know when somebody's selling us. Who cares if somebody's lying to you or they're wrong? It's irrelevant. We each have to decide what's right for us, right? So what are you going to show me your cards there, Betty?
I was, because I pulled, just so everybody knows, before we came on, I just pulled cards because I knew what we're talking about. And I thought, oh, okay, you know what? Let's just shuffle them up and see what everybody needs to hear today. Well, what do we need to know? And the first one, I did my Soul's Journey cards, and it was death. And it says, I don't know if you can see it there, I am learning that endings are merely beginnings. And that is so true. So we are ending a cycle.
So look at the death card in the tarot deck. The death. If you look at the major arcana in the tarot deck, there's a death card. When people get it, they assume somebody's going to die. It does not mean that. It means that something is going to end. So is it the bullshit in the collective? Now we can muscle test this card too and see all the different ways that it applies. Is it something is going to come out in the truth?
Well, I got my wands here, so that's actually easier for everybody to see. So right. What do you want to know, Sandy?
Is the truth going to come out about the elections in Arizona in the next couple of weeks? Totally. Mike Lindell just came out and offered anybody $5 million to prove him wrong. So we're not waiting. He's not waiting for the courts anymore. This is the self-leadership, a great example of it, that he's taking the bull by the horns. Prove me wrong.
So, and this isn't a physical, is this card about physical death? No, it's not about physical death. It's about death of, I think, a lot of our thinking, our beliefs,
who we trust.
What we believe is who we trust.
So this is a big one, who we trust, and that's going to come into self-leadership, and it's going to come down to grooming, because I recently realized I got groomed by a woman, because I'm standing up about love for love. I'm standing up about true sensuality and healthy sexuality, and it turns out this woman's grooming me. I figured it out, a lesbian, and she's grooming me. So I had planned some holidays, and I had said, if you want to come up for a couple of days, that's fine. You can sleep here or here. She was, I can sleep with you. What's she going to do? Take a selfie with her and I in bed and say, see, Sandy's a lesbian. Like, and if she's watching this, go for it, girl. Like, you know what I'm saying? So we realized this person has been my friend for 4 years, and I really trusted her, but she had to come in and gain my trust. I love being with you. I love spending time. She always paid her way. Like, she always did things, and all of a sudden the little games start happening. So translate that story into the collective. All these games that are happening with the politicians and all the games trying to, what do you call that? Like trick the public into thinking certain things. And it's just, but I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt. And the saying that came up for me with you, for you today, Betty, what we consider out of character behavior that we think, oh, everybody's losing it. No, they're showing their true colors. That's the death that's happening. We're not buying the nonsense anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is part of that death, is we're actually changing who we believe, who we trust.
Turning it internally, we're trusting ourselves more, right?
And this was because I did pull from my Moonology deck too. And the first card that I got from, like, I always pull a couple of these, show the world the real you. And I think those people are also showing us
good and
the
bad,
real them. And we need to believe them. And I'll never forget this, because, and this has stuck with me for a really long time. And it was Oprah. But she said, everybody's going to show you who they are. You just have to believe them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that has always stuck with me. And it's funny because people will always slip, even in the smallest ways, in the beginning, even if you're paying attention. I'm thinking of something specific for, but.
So SR5, she's talking about Mike Lindell. So look at how much ridicule and flack he's getting in attempts to destroy him. That's the face of evil. So we're all getting that with the medical situation that some people are facing right now. We're getting it with the control mechanisms that are in place. They're trying to make us look like we're the stupid ones. But energetically, the more, not just light that we have, but the more we fortify our energetic walls around us, they're going to lose even more power, because they're going to have less people to feed off of, right? So it's not fair what he's going through. And I appreciate the fame that Mike Lindell has and the resources he has. This happens to everybody. So it's not that he's more important than anyone else. He just has a certain mission that he's on, and he's got the resources to back his mission and say, I'll give anyone $5 million to prove I'm wrong, instead of always having to prove we're right.
Yeah.
So and he's a great beacon.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Music Girl's Truth says she's had aches and pains all week. And yeah, that's a part of it too. It's this brain, like, you just forget things, drop things, aches and pains. You know, one of the nice things Linda Good McGillis said is when you actually are starting to feel those, tap them. Like if your shoulders, just tap that and release and just say, release whatever is trapped here. And I'm going to be honest, I did that because actually my shoulder has been aching for a while. It is so much better since I actually did that.
You can tap it. You can also, if you're good, say, I love you, I love you, I love you, and be your higher self giving you the love you need.
Yeah.
That's also.
And release. And she said to release, like, and say it out loud, like tap and, whatever is blocked in here and causing this pain, we release it.
So what do you want? Do you want it released, or do you want to know what caused it? So I'm just taking it to a different level.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I had, I can't remember what I came up with this morning. All of a sudden I get a truth bomb and I went, whoa, I have an implant. And I didn't just release it. I sat there and said, where's it connected? Oh, and I knew it was my amygdala. What's your amygdala for? Processing emotions. Really? What is it about? Truth. Not seeing the truth. It's also attached to my third eye. So I traced my attention going back to the implant and understood why it was there, who put it there, what the purpose was of it, released it. So It's not just a matter of tap if that's what you want to do, but ask, why is it there? Is it telling you something? This is a different way of expanding your own knowledge of yourself, because once you know in your body, I have certain pains that come into a certain part of my body, and it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it comes into the same spot. But I know it's telling me then something, it's a spiritual attack. If that makes any sense. So it's not that not all pains are bad. They're just messages telling us, right?
And Robin's asking, how do you discover you have an implant, Sandy?
If you went, whoa, so the occipital bones right here, usually implants are in the back of your head, because if you look at your head in terms of the 7 chakra system, the very base is the root chakra. And then it works its way up to the front of your head. It works its way around and then up to the front of your head and to the top, to the crown chakra. So if you, and the occipital bones is where a lot of the, like say the first 3 chakras, like the physical form, they will land there. And when people go like this, I go, you got an implant. So you just did that earlier. So you know you have an implant, but it doesn't mean you release it in front of people either. You don't want to open your energy field up to everybody else. But if your attention goes there, it's telling you something. So it was interesting with this person yesterday, after we pulled the knife out of her back, Like somebody was like, you're not getting away from me. And it wasn't anybody close to her. It's just somebody who assumed they were smarter than her, more entitled to their opinion than her. They were narcissists. But then all of a sudden she gets itching on her shoulder. She's like, whoa, something's moving along my shoulder. And I asked her, I said, is it inside you or outside of you? And she goes, it's outside. I go, flick it off. Just tell it to get off, transmute it up where it needs to go. And by us saying the words and knowing, and I showed her how to open up a black hole and things like that and just send it out to another time, space, and dimension to be transmuted up to love. But she did it herself. The confidence she has now that she can do it herself. Before it was like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. And now it's like, whose is it? Who put it there? And you know what she did too? She stopped buying into the bullshit that everybody in her life loves her, even though they tell her they love her.
Yeah.
She stopped buying into that because she started realizing what passive aggressive looks like. I'm not saying this is pretty what we're going through, but wouldn't you rather know the truth and how to read it?
Yeah. And when you can, that is what gives you your ability to lead yourself. It's starting to trust. It goes right back to one of our very early conversations, and it's that trusting of yourself. And it's really a balancing act. And that's was the next card that I got was the balance, spirituality and practicality. And as we move forward, we do have to balance those two things. You can't be all in up here in the air, la la la. We have to be practical too, because we
have to bring our spiritual gifts into the physical reality is another way of saying that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And because we still have to be able to function, right? And
we are here in the physical reality because we're meant to use our senses and feel and see and taste. And that's the beauty of being on this beautiful planet, other than all the manipulations that we've had. But that's the idea of why we're here and not just in the etheric form, that we're in a physical body so we can enjoy the senses. So people are talking about certain pains and what they feel like. It's different for everybody. Don't assume because somebody feels a pain a certain way that you have to feel it that way. The key is that you go in consciously, just as, so Betty was talking about tapping it, and I'm talking about going in and saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. What do you need to tell me? What do I need to know? That also helps you strengthen your vertical channel.
Yep. Sorry, somebody's crying.
And helps you to understand that, how to trust yourself more. So that could be considered your higher self coming in and talking to you and saying, I love you, and nurturing yourself.
Yes.
Totally. Can people put things in you without being aware? Amber, that is such a great question. And just, we have to stop. When I say we, I'm not talking about anybody in particular or how many people, but we have to stop assuming everybody's intentions are good. We have to start etherically when you meet somebody, not that people are shaking hands right now necessarily, but when you meet somebody, ask yourself, is this person's intentions pure for me? Is this person's intentions good for me? What kind of technology is this person using? Is this person above board? Does this person have an agenda? And we start asking these questions up front, we're going to pick up on certain things. And they're going to know, because for evil to exist, it has to get past unassuming people. So they know that you're assuming, they're not assuming anything. You're not taking anything for granted. You're willing to look at them at face value. Somebody had posted up here, Mary Lou, can't remember what the post was, what she's saying, when people show you who they are, believe them. This is the era that we're going into. She's probably way ahead of her time too, right?
Yeah, no, that was Oprah who said that.
Somebody said Mary Lou. So who? It doesn't matter. Same.
I heard it from Oprah.
Yeah. So we also know Oprah is her past is very checkered and questionable at this time. So because people give you an ounce of truth and tell you a little bit of truth doesn't mean they're even trustworthy. They have to share some truth with you to give them credibility.
Yep.
And once we know that, but this is all part of again, going back to the self-leadership. What is self-leadership? Trusting yourself. Like, this is a great question to ask. I wrote the question down and I didn't even come up with the answers, but I thought we can come up with some now. But what is self-leadership? Trusting yourself to make the right decisions for yourself. Maya Angelou, that was her quote.
Maya Angelou, yeah.
So, and it doesn't matter. Like, it's just the idea is when people show you who they are, trust them. So going back to this example, this woman's saying more and more bizarre things, but a lot of it was over the last month. And I'm like, why am I having to repeat myself? Why are you not getting this? Why am I uncomfortable around you? And I realized that the darkness is an energy that they're running out of time. The mean-spirited, the two-faced people, the liars, the deceivers. Who cares? Some people will even say that about me. And if you feel that way about me, don't talk to me. Like, give yourself the gift of missing me, right? But it's just interesting how this is starting to happen more and more, that we're seeing what people's priorities are.
Yep.
So when you look at leadership, what gives you great leadership, self-leadership qualities? One, I'm going to say it's your values. What do you believe in? What do you adhere to? Do you have a moral standard you set for yourself? And some people might say, oh, you're judging people who choose not to be moral. I don't care if you're moral or not, but what are your standards for yourself? Because when your standards are defined even energetically for yourself, you're going to attract that kind of person to you, or the person who thinks they're going to get past you, and you're going to figure it out.
Right.
So it's interesting. I can't remember who I was talking to this week, but I was talking about how evil works. So a lot of people are speaking up right now. And I know a few years ago, there was a couple guys speaking up about they were abused by their coach. I'm not going to say who these people are. And they're becoming advocates, and they're getting traction in the public. Well, next thing you know, one finds the woman of his dreams. He gets married. And it's not that he shut down, but he kind of shut down. He's focused on his personal life. The next one, all of a sudden, somebody who I think the political group that he's affiliated with are pedophiles and sex offenders, right? But they want to shut him down. But they all of a sudden he starts dating somebody, and lo and behold, she becomes pregnant. So he has to step down because he wants to be a family man, because he made a point of saying that he didn't like how he was as a father. So he gets a chance to do it all over again. So he steps away. I know a female in this area. I'm not going to say who these people are. She was speaking up a lot about abuse. Well, next thing you know, she falls in love and gets pregnant. These people are the handlers of all these people. When you speak up, you got to know not everybody has a good intention.
Yeah.
How do you decide what's a good intention, right? You can ask people, or you can just read them.
Yes. Yeah. And you'll feel it. I sometimes, and I have been over the years, and thankfully I'm actually a lot more discerning, and people's energy. You can be in a room and when you know about, this is somebody I want to be with, and not, there's something repelling you, and believe it. When you just feel that you want to, there's something wrong here. Trust
and you might not need to know why, but and sometimes I was inquisitive. I wanted to know why. I've got a story about the things I said earlier. Other people involved, and I'm just sitting here thinking, sometimes I'm so smart, I blow my mind, and there's other times I'm so naive. But my problem was I was trusting people. So people are asking about using your intuition. If you don't know who you are, and you haven't cleaned out traumas, pains, sufferings, you haven't brought back your emotional components, your soul components, your soul fragments, you're going to still be susceptible to being duped.
SRS is saying she thinks there's sociopaths are on the increase. I would say yes and no. They've always been there. I think they're being more exposed for sure. So we're a little bit more aware of them. But our education system has actually created a lot of sociopaths.
They've created them, and they've sorted them. They sort them in their own type of programming. So it's not about whether you have an IQ that gets you the jobs in our society. It's how far you'll go to forward their agenda or cause pain and suffering to others, right? So Lori's talking about Mother Teresa. You look at Mother Teresa, and people have come up with that she's Fauci's mother, right? Like who knows what's going on there? But you don't get into high places. Very few people get into high places without paying a price. And I'm not saying that's true for everybody. Some people got through and were able to stay between the goalposts and not get on the radar. So Mike Lindell had gone through some issues earlier in life. He starts to make it big in life, but he did it on his own from what I can see. But now that he's speaking up, they got to take him down a couple notches. It's how it gets played, right? So I'm not saying all rich people are good or bad, but it's like everything else. You have to look at them and decide for yourself what if you think they're good or bad, or are they good or bad based on your thoughts, your ideology.
Yes.
Oh, so-and-so's a Christian and I'm a Christian, so that means that they're good. No guarantees. If you're esteeming yourself outside of yourself, there's no guarantees, right?
No, and we've seen a lot of these I've seen personally a lot of Christians. I mean, why I walked away from the church, biggest hypocrites I've ever seen. And there's a lot of them. Not all are bad, but not all are good. And it's that whole facade. It's a game to some extent. And
It's a
I've
program.
actually learned, yeah. And I've also learned that the Bible and so many of the things that they're teaching aren't rooted in real truth. And it's an agenda again.
It has to be some truth, right? Look at what Noelle is saying, that many people are put in your place to teach you lessons. And I'm going to say yes and no. And this is a great opportunity, Noella, to ask yourself what is true, or is that a program from the New Age movement? And I'm going to say this because many of us got to this point in life because we're here for the Great Awakening, and we can articulate and explain how good and evil works, so that it's not about esteeming ourselves from outside. So why did I have to go through this with this person 4 years ago? I wasn't totally awake 4 years ago when I met this person. So I can look at it, but they have a responsibility not to be dupers. We have a responsibility not to be duped.
Yes.
But since they can't hold their end of the bargain, the onus is on us. I don't look at it that I learned a lesson from this person. I looked at it and said, holy cow, I see the truth. So I didn't look at it as a lesson. And we were talking earlier this week. So I go for a walk this week. This person knows I figured it out, but I haven't really come out and said it to her, but she knows I know something. So, and I remember the first time I met her, she goes, I'm a witch. And I said, I'm not. That's how, but she was always nice. She helped me on trade shows. She did a lot of good things for me, right? So I had no reason to suspect anything underlying. So I go for a walk, and there's some crows up in the tree, or blackbirds up in the tree, right? And I look at them and I talk to them and I said, are you here for me? Sometimes I get no. This time I got a yes. And I said, am I in danger? And I got no. I go, somebody about to put a spell on me or try to control me etherically? And I got a yes. And I knew exactly who it was. And I'm not going to say what I did to shake up the energy. But I know this person now needs desperate control because she needs to keep her reputation intact.
Well, that goes back to energetically, she knew that you let her go, goes back to, and then they try to double down. And that's the thing we all have to be really careful of. When you clear, you cut the cords, you remove anything that they're trying to implant or do to you. They energetically feel it if they know it or not. And on an energetic level, will actually come back at you stronger, hoping that they can, get that hook in.
And it's important. This is great that you brought that up, Betty, because this is really important that we know that when you think about that person too much. So I'm talking about that person, but that energy is not in my body anywhere. It's just, I'm telling a story.
Yeah.
But if you think about these people, or you start talking to them, or why did you do that, or any of that nonsense, you're inviting them etherically back into your field. So, okay, I can't believe I'm going to say this either, but so I work with a client and he's got demons. Okay, so what? Some people have demons, some people don't, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? So he's got demons, and because he is so experienced in certain aspects of energy, I'd ask somebody to come and help me. So her and I are sitting across from each other, and he's sitting at the end of the table, and we're clearing out the demons, and then it pops back in. And I'm like, do you talk to your demon? He goes, yeah. He lives alone, he's lonely. Well, then don't come to us to clear it out if you keep inviting it back in.
Yeah.
So this is important. So I'm not talking about letting go. I'm not giving it your energetic, your emotional feed, and not letting it source off of you. So it's okay to tell the story, but you do not let it take over you. So it's interesting. So it's not that you let it go, that, oh, well, because they're going to hurt somebody else, or they're going to try to come back on you, right? There's a big talk right now about the election, 2020 election. So I might contradict myself here, but I want to state this. And a lot of people are saying the T-Man won't let go of that election. He was wrong. He's not letting go of that election. Some people would say, and this is where mental health has been trained, oh, let go, move on, you know what I mean? Get over it, get your life back. There's truth to that too. But he also knows that he was wronged, and they're not going into 2022 or 2024. They're going back and they're going to prove that was fraud, because the only way you can stop some of these people sometimes is to go in and take from them what they so wanted to take from you. I'm not suggesting anybody do this here by any means, because even I'm not strong enough to do that. But my point is, so I'm going to give an example. So there's a lawsuit going on against Twitter. I love a mind game, providing it's a good one with good intention. So there's a lawsuit going on with Twitter, and we know who started it. Trump started it, right? He's getting everybody who wants to come in this class action suit. He's footing the bill as far as I can tell. If he's a smart man, you know what he's going to do? He's going to turn around and the fines will be astronomical that Dorsey has to pay out. He's going to drop the share price and Trump's going to come in and buy it. This is what I see happening, right? That's how you end evil. Now, I'm not at that level that I can play that game, but I can see the possibilities. But you got to take it away from Dorsey. That's the only way that's going to work. They don't stop unless you take from them what they so cherish, if that makes any sense. That's a high-end poker game.
Oh yeah, and they are definitely playing a lot of games here right now, and you know it's interesting. High stakes poker, absolutely, it's for the world. But you know, Kyrie here is asking, what's the difference between feelings and emotions? And
feelings.
Okay.
So sometimes they're synonymous, and sometimes they're separate. An emotion is a sense of it's going to be more of a sense of what comes from your, I'm going to say your heart, but it's going to be a sense that is attached to, it's not, okay, I'm going to go to the feeling first. A feeling can be a sense of your touch. A feeling can be, I've got an inkling, I've got a niggling feeling, I've got a suspicion. A feeling is like a spidey sense, but an emotion is centered in your heart. So maybe you're feeling sadness in your heart, or you're feeling happiness in your heart. Maybe you're feeling joy in your heart. Maybe you're feeling fear's not an emotion. Isn't that interesting? Fear's a response. Isn't that interesting? So I see them as a little different, but we're not used to being in our emotions. We're not used to feeling a sense of serenity. So emotions are more states of being. So you're feeling it calm, you're feeling peaceful, you're feeling serenity, where feelings, in my opinion, are more of a sense.
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm right. I don't know. That's my
No, I agree. That's actually, you said it different than I was about to, but very similar, because yes, you can feel in different ways. Emotions are just kind of, you know, from the heart center, but, or even from your mind too. It can come, you know, anger.
Anger doesn't come from your mind. In my opinion, it comes from your heart, because normally when people have anger, you've offended their sense of who they are, or you've done something you shouldn't have done, or you transgressed on somebody. So that comes from your core of your very being.
It's programming. And I mean, because a lot of emotions are programmed. So you might get triggered by anger or things too. But when you're looking at feelings, how you feel about something, it's about going inside and seeing how your body is reacting to it, not just the emotion.
Right. And your body won't lie to you. It'll tell you the truth. And exactly. A lot of people feel this in their stomach because we don't like confrontation, but it doesn't mean that we don't stand up when we need to. Because we don't like it doesn't mean we don't do it. And a lot of times people have upset stomachs when it comes time to confronting somebody, or you know something is not good for you. It's like it turns into acid almost. So trust that gut instinct when that happens is what I suggest. And then you also get the opposite. Sometimes you instantly like somebody. You know what? Okay, I'm going to do my traffic lights here. I put people in 3 colors when I meet them. Either you're red, you're yellow, or you're green. If you're green, that means I've not noticed anything offside about you. I have not have any questions about you. I don't doubt anything you do, because you know where your rights start and stop, and when other people's rights start and stop. You have a strong ethical core. You have a strong standard for yourself. You believe in the best for yourself and others. Then I put people in the, I'm going to go to the red next. The red means you cross boundaries. You'll insult people behind their back. You'll say things laughing about somebody as if it's a joke, but it's putting them down. Two-faced, manipulative, lying, whatever, any of those things. And then I go to yellow, where sometimes your boundaries are intact, sometimes they're not. Sometimes you might just be a little offside. And I put people in those categories when I meet them. And if you're a green, you can stay a green until you do something I doubt. Yellows can go either way. They can show their true colors after a few times you get to see them and you start going, okay, this doesn't work for me. Or you can show they were just nervous and didn't know what to say, and maybe they doubt themselves. So then they can stay yellow still because they still don't know who they are. If you're a red, you're not coming back. Get the fuck out of my life, right? Like that's how I don't give the reds a chance. If you haven't figured it out as an adult now, it's not my problem. I don't care. Yeah.
And that's all about when we start. And Kyrie said, so feelings come from senses, from your senses. Yes.
That's
so
my
really,
position. Yeah.
Yeah. Nicely put in a very succinctly.
Yeah. But because we've all been manipulated in the English language, mental health, what it takes to make us a person strong in their own core and strong in leadership and self-leadership, all that has been intentionally manipulated. So it's hard to know. So it's great that we're trying to find clarification for ourselves, right? Like what this is, what it means to us. So can I ask, so somebody's saying Twitter, use it for gardens, like use it as a fertilizer. You don't fuck with Trump. He's not going to use Twitter as a fertilizer. He's going to own it when he's done. He's coming back. So he says he's not on any other platform. You screwed him over on Twitter. He's going to own Twitter by the time this is done. That's the strong masculine energy, that there will be consequences for your behavior.
Yep.
That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but I'm of the opinion that you're not going to mess with him.
Yep. And Alma says healthy boundaries. That's a wrap. Yep. You're right. It's all about having healthy boundaries and respecting yourself, respecting you.
People don't know how to define boundaries for themselves. And I'm not judging when I say that, but I've come across so many people who don't define boundaries. And I break them down into inner, outer, and sexual boundaries. So when your inner boundaries is how you speak to somebody, the relationship you have with them, how you talk to them, if you let them speak and not interrupting them all the time, and you cherish what they're saying, you cherish their opinion. The outer boundaries is they won't go through your mail or go through your purse or your wallet or try to figure out your phone to see who you're talking to. They won't sneak into your email accounts or things like that, that they respect that, no, this is your space. This is your drawer. This is my drawer. I'm not going in yours, but I expect you not to go into mine. And it can be in workplace. It can be all kinds of things. You don't go into my desk. I don't go into yours. You respect that space. But as soon as the relationship turns sexual, you can feel something has shifted. Mm-hmm. Or you should be feeling something has shifted. And when you feel that shift turning sexual, somebody has an agenda that maybe is not aligned for your highest good. And it doesn't mean that every time energies change and it becomes sexual, that it's a bad thing, but you have to go back and reestablish boundaries in that aspect of what does your sexual relationship look like?
Yes.
It seems like a lot of work, but it only is until you get it sorted out in your own mind's eye. And this feels right for me. So an example, I'm going to use the sex one. There's a saying that, don't have sex until the third date. Well, that's an attempt to get you to have sex on the third date so that you're having sex with people that you don't even know yet.
Yep.
So I understand, because you hear it, mental health experts, sexologists say, that doesn't mean that's the right thing for you, right?
No. And exactly what you said. It takes a while. And I've seen lots of people go down, and listen, we've all made mistakes, but it's
not even about mistakes. We're encouraged by media, society, the education system. So we have a system that's psychopathic, sociopathic, that wants people to demean themselves so that they can stay in control. So the big thing that's happening, I saw this on Twitter. I can't remember if we've talked about this, Betty, that there's a psychotherapist saying, mental health almost has it figured out. In 2 years, they'll have all this figured out about, the human psyche and how to be human. So we all got to wait for 2 years for mental health to figure it out. No. Mike Lindell, go back to Mike.
Looking for ways to screw us up more.
Totally, right? But we have to be in charge because we're the experts. So this is the matrix, professional matrix, the facade that's falling apart. Mike Lindell comes out. He's not waiting for the justice system to point out in 6 or 7 or 8 years whether the legal system, whether the Supreme Court lied or whether there was manipulation with the vote. He's coming out and saying, prove me wrong. He's dissolving the existing structure. Buckminster Fuller had a saying something about you don't try to fix the new system. You let the old system fall away while you create a new system. So you let the old fall away, right?
Yeah.
So having sex too soon stops intimacy is because people aren't emotionally mature enough to understand what the sacred part of sexuality is. And that's why they're really pushing it for the 12-year-olds, like the kids are pushing the sex ed, because my understanding is that's where the 12-year-olds, the children are developing their egos. They're trying to find their way in the physical world. That's their job at that age, to see where, create their own boundaries for themselves, esteem themselves. Their parents should be helping them with that, getting their confidence. Then the spirituality connection comes in at 12. And as that we're in a spiritual war, that's why I think they're sexualizing the children at 12, is because they want them having sex and staying in that lower human frequency and not understanding the creativity that sexual energy is, what life force is, and what intimacy is with the real partner. Because they want us, everybody AI, right?
It's also puberty, and that's a rush of hormones. It's a great time when they're actually receiving their sexual energy to basically fuck it up.
And they want to have sex with the children because they want to steal that energy. So they want the children sexualized earlier, so the kids will say it's my idea. Right? Yeah, that's how she brought the sex ed curriculum in. She had two 13-year-old and a 14-year-old come in on the stage with Kathleen Wynne and say, we want to talk about sex. And the only question that was not asked of those two girls was, where is your mother? Right? Because I would have ripped her a new one for sure. And then now I'm wondering if these girls are not the daughters of some of the politicians who are probably already them anyways, right?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, and it's a really sad state of affairs. But at the end of the day, this is where we actually have to come back to that self-mastery, self-leadership, and trust yourself, and not to buy into all this bullshit that they've been selling us for years, because many people did. You know, they can sell a good game. They are very good wordsmiths.
Totally. And you look at what a fiduciary duty is. A fiduciary duty is, so if you're a leader, you're going to be a self-leader, but you're also going to hold out a standard that other people can not adhere to, because you don't want to be the one who says what other people's values or standards have to be. But you have a certain fiduciary responsibility in certain aspects of business. So in financial services, if you know more than the person you're working with, you have to be able to, one, give them guidelines and give them recommendations that are in their best interest, but be able to articulate how that this is in their best interest. So one time something came up in financial services, and this woman I knew did not know how to make decisions for herself. And I called different people asking, well, how do I do this? And I called the mental health, and they go, we're not telling you her information. I'm like, I'm not asking you anybody's information. I'm asking you, what do I do? And I finally got a hold of one fellow, and he said, Sandy, if you can stand in front of a judge and say, Your Honor, I did this because of this, that's all you need to do. You're part of a circle of care. And I'm like, why didn't somebody just come out and say that? Because I knew my intentions were good. I knew what I was talking about. I knew it made sense financially. It was within a moderate risk profile. I could go through and articulate 10 reasons why this was the right thing, but nobody said that simple thing. Just prove that you can prove that you did the right thing for the right reason.
Yeah.
So the fiduciary responsibility, people have lost that. Lawyers aren't trustworthy anymore. How many lawyers are standing up about what's going on with this flu epidemic?
Thankfully, there are some. There are some,
but the majority of them, why are we paying them why are you giving them money to do certain things for you when they don't give a damn about anybody but themselves? So I'm grateful for everybody who's standing up in the medical community and all the communities, but they're too few and far between.
Yeah, well, a lot of people there's a lot of fear involved because they're losing their livelihoods. And I think, regardless of what happens, you know what, you're done no matter what. And I've been saying that for a while. I want to, Kyrie also said, I hope I'm saying your name right. 50% of English, and this goes to the fuckery of what they've done to our language. And they totally have. Part of our English is Latin, the rest is from Britain and Celtic and Slavic. And in all of those languages, basically, I noticed that even within one language, people have different definitions of the same word. So it makes it really difficult to communicate. And that's done on purpose. It is they've really tried to gaslight us and everything. Really, That's basically what it comes down to. We've been gaslit on everything.
Even the term gaslighting, what does that mean? When I hear the term gaslighting, it's manipulation, it's lying,
absolutely.
It's deception, but they give it a term that unless you've really looked into it, what does gaslighting mean, right?
Yeah, but it's all part of the mind fuckery, as Lori says. I did steal that from Lori because she put it in the chat a while back, and I just love it because it is mind fuckery.
It's our job not to be manipulated. Evil's job is to dupe us, to trick us. It's our job not to be tricked. So we want to know who we are, why we're here. And this energy, I believe, is coming in. So now they're ramping it up to keep us from knowing who we are and why we're here. So we stay in our lane, building our pillar, and see what happens. Let go of the outcome, see what happens, right? So people are talking about,
but we also can create the outcome. And I mean, that's part of this journey, is creating and focusing on what we want on the other side of this, because that's how we bring it in. And so I think that's a big part of the collective. And I don't remember if it was last week, how much one person meditating affects a community. The more of us that do it, and we've got people from all over the place.
But many people meditate from their head and not their heart. So we're bringing in the loving energy, but people don't know how to bring their energy into their heart and just radiate as the love and meditate from here. People are still coming. We're still learning how to bring it all back into our heart, right?
Yeah. And that's what we are learning, actually, as we, a lot of people in the last, I think, few years. I mean, this has been the New Age movement has been a big movement, and not all bad came from it, but we need to know where it came from. So this,
and we know where it came from, right?
It's all, this love and light. It's love, love, light. Love is the light, not love and light.
Yeah,
and that's the key difference there. And everything being outside of you and nothing being bad, that's all garbage. But it did teach us how to meditate, to go within and try to feel your heart and radiate out. And the beauty of right now, and I've said this so many times, is when we get in touch with nature, it's easier to feel your heart. Totally. When you surrender to the nature and the beauty and the strength and the majesty of these trees.
Ask yourself when you're in nature, ask yourself, how can I open my heart in a way that just delights me and makes me feel good and I feel safe within my own skin, or whatever your question is. Doesn't matter what your question is, but ask yourself, how can I open myself to more love? So when we talk about leadership, what does it mean? Leadership to me means you have confidence, you have strength in who you are, you know how to stand up for yourself. So when you feel that somebody's not telling you the truth, you might not tell them right away, boom, 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 but you might, all of a sudden your guard goes up. And when all of a sudden you know that you're questioning whether you can trust somebody, you already know you don't trust them. But leadership is about empowering yourself to be your best self, to ask to be shown what you can do to live an extraordinary life, to bring out the best qualities in yourself. And the idea with a self leader is you want to share that with other people, but you don't want to lead them and tell them what to do. You want to show them how to do it for themselves.
Yes. And it's having good boundaries. It's being unshakable, uncorruptible. You know how to stand in your space, in your truth. And yes, you can. I mean, it's not about being closed-minded. It's about not being able to be swayed by a lot of the fuckery that's going on.
Totally. Not being able.
And that's what I mean. It's like you will stand firm to your values.
Yes. So we are all shakeable. There's no doubt about it. I'm shakeable. Everybody is shakeable. But the idea is when you're shaken, what do you do with that information? Do you go inside? So it's like, if I have something hurting, I don't just tap it off. I go in and go, what are you telling me? What do I need to know? So I'm curious about being told about, like, myself, even telling myself or showing myself what it is I need to know. Because if I'm being shaken by something, why is that happening? Is it mine or is it somebody else's? These are all the questions I ask when I'm working with somebody. I don't know the answers, but people tell me they're shaken and I'm like, it's not your stuff.
No, I mean more to things like your values. Like, you're not going to change your values and what you think is right and wrong. No. Things like, and this is what we're seeing a lot when we're talking about, the little thing they're trying to give us all is you see people who had said, no way, Jose, never, ever, yet change their mind because of peer pressure, or they want to travel, or they have, their work is requiring it. They don't want to go through the trouble of, pulling the documents down that will actually question them on their liability and things like that. So they're not unshakable. They're very shakeable. It didn't take much to sway that decision. Right. And if you are able to lead yourself, you say, no, I will take the 5 minutes that it takes to find the document, download it, print it off, and take it to my HR and say, when you can sign this, then we'll discuss it. But until then, no.
Yeah.
It's about really standing in your power, in your space, and
standing in what you believe is right in your values.
To yourself. You have to be true to yourself. That is no longer being true to yourself. You're being true to either your friends or to your employer, and you are making yourself second. And
the spiritual movement is all about the truth. So it's so many things we don't know about, but when the spiritual movement is all about the truth and they don't want us to grow spiritually, they have to obscure, manipulate, change the truth, whether they use it through guilt. So you look at all the things that are happening right now, whether you're talking it's through work or whatever that you have to get it. Think of the dog that's whining, and everybody wants to go and see and give it attention kind of thing, right? That's what all this kind of stuff is. Oh, you're going to hurt me if you don't get it. And it's like, oh, enough already.
Why? Did you hear her crying earlier? Because I up and down.
Just jump to her, but that's okay because your dog is not going to grow up and rob a bank.
No, she's not. She just wanted some water, and she doesn't have any sitting behind me.
So my point is, people know how to do the same thing. Oh, that's where all the guilt is in. Oh, I'm wearing a mask to protect you. No, you might as well just put it over your nose and put plastic over it instead and just get off the planet. We don't have enough oxygen as it is, right? But you know what I mean? Like, it's just, if that's your logic, I'm protecting you. Really?
I didn't ask you to. I can protect you.
I was going to say something, but I'm glad I didn't.
I don't need you to protect me.
Never asked you to do it.
No, I didn't. And
now my values have to be your values. And this is where it gets really, we're seeing this and maybe we're flogging a dead horse a little bit just by talking about this as much as we are, but we want other people to stand in their power and know, I don't have to buy into this. I was at a place, when was that? Yesterday, I guess. And it was a retail place and I'd walked in and the owners had put their masks on and a couple customers came in and the one turned and looked at me and I turned and looked at him and went inside. And guess what? He shut up. He never said a word. And it's like, buddy, you want a piece of me today? Knock yourself out. I need to blow off a little steam, right? But I gave that energy out, like, just bring it on, right? And it was just the exact opposite of what he had the courage to do. So when you start standing up, it's when we start standing up a little more and standing in our power and not taking other people's crap. I posted something on Facebook and I can't remember exactly what it was, but the premise of it was that, in the past, we always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. So if they walked on us, we would apologize for scuffing their shoes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or if they stepped in doo-doo, we'd apologize and think it was our fault or something like that. And now it's like, no, everybody starts owning their own stuff. But this is the true self-leadership that, you don't owe anybody an explanation.
And I think the important thing, because yesterday I got an announcement, Apple News, it came up on my phone about the dangers of, the COV and the V, the dangers of misinformation around that. There was a whole article and it was like, it was buzzing. I was like, what the hell is this? And
they're panicking when they're sending it to you in the phone.
Yes, they are panicking to send it to you on your phone. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who got it. And so if I don't have self-leadership, I would be like, and trusting the bullshit detector I have built into my body.
We all have, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And they are pushing this narrative of disinformation. Here's the deal. The disinformation is MSM. The real information is what they're trying to suppress. Right. And I know that. I have to laugh. I actually was joking about it with somebody yesterday. I'm like, it's like they have it. It's just like everything else. Everything is flipped on its head. The truth is a lie. The lie is the truth. That's what they want you to believe. It's that whole mind fuckery. And they think if they say it enough, that you're going to believe it. But
that is the plan. That's NLP.
Yes. And that's why this is so timely and important, because they're amping this up huge, right?
This is great that you're. That's great.
Sorry, I just want to finish the thought. You're seeing in Europe that you're not going to be able to buy, sell, do anything. You're going to be fined if you are unvied to go to the store or to a coffee shop. That is that big push. And if we cannot stand strong, there's not going to be any of us left to continue this planet.
I'm not going into that because we don't know if that's true or not. Okay.
Well, I think it's true that they're trying to do it.
I know, but it's also in the media. So we got to look at a few things. So I'm going to give an example. Somebody recently told me about a country that things are going wrong and the military's in and they're going after the village people and they're causing pain and taking them away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, I just spoke to somebody else from that country and they never said a word that any of that's happening. We don't know who's telling the truth and who's not, right? And I don't care. It's still up to me to figure out what I believe is going on, or maybe it's happening in some pockets and not other pockets. I don't know what the answer is, right? But my point is, so we're hearing all this stuff is happening. We're hearing this stuff is happening here in Canada, in Ontario. Right? That, okay, now we can go to the restaurants. People are going back to the restaurants or whatever. But if everybody shuts down again, let them shut down. Why do we have to go out to, why do we need to go to restaurants all the time? And I'm not saying, the question is that they're trying to take away from us what they've taught us are the values of consumerism and commercialism.
Yep.
But we have to be able to go shopping. Okay, so I shop online and you guys are out of a job. Own your stuff, people.
Yeah,
like
if they stood up to them and said no, and kept them open and everybody did it, they wouldn't be in this position and we wouldn't be buying things we need online.
They put it on the consumers instead of putting it on the people who work there. Right. And that's what I'm finding that is a big push. So what are qualities in leaders? What are qualities in self-leadership? So I'm going to start with one. Maybe other people can pipe in too, but integrity. Do you have integrity? And I'll give an example. That example I gave earlier where somebody tried to trick me. I'm laughing my ass off because I never gave up my integrity. I didn't know what was going on. I'm still naive, but I still did not give up my integrity and say, oh, well, okay, we'll just let this go a little bit. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? I even asked the person one time, I go, are you trying to piss me off intentionally? No. And you realize, yeah, they were. So do you know what I'm saying? So what are some values that people have? You know, integrity is one. What's another one? Honesty.
Yeah, pop some of your thoughts into the chat.
These are just some of the things.
Yeah.
Critical
thinking. I would like to hear from
the people. Yeah. Start sharing what you know are qualities of real leaders and self-leadership. What do you love about yourself, about your own standards and your values that that maybe other people aren't happy about, but maybe they're not happy about it because they can't put one past you. It doesn't mean it's your problem, right?
Amber says standards, morals, having
standards is a big one. Most people don't even know what a standard is. And we haven't even talked about really what standards are. But a standard is you won't accept other people's lies and when I say that, I got to watch because I've had people lie to me, but they lied to me for reasons that had nothing to do with me. They didn't want me to know something about them. But it doesn't mean their lie was intentional. They were just trying to protect themselves. That's a different kind of lie. But they didn't know how to say, I'm not comfortable answering that. So they gave me a little white lie because they didn't have the values. Doesn't mean they would ever move from a yellow in my life either. They would always be a yellow.
Hey, Teresa, confidence from Teresa.
Totally. How do you know you know? And I know Teresa knows. I have all the confidence that Teresa knows. Knows what Teresa needs to know about Teresa and what she needs to do in her world, right? And that's the thing. And when those are people that are safe to be around, when you know they know, and they like who they are and they trust who they are and they're consistent within their parameters of how they behave, they're trustworthy.
Yeah, do what you preach. Don't expect anyone to do something you won't do yourself. Absolutely. Those are words. Those are my words I live by. Yeah. Even when in work, when I was like, I will never ask somebody to do something I wasn't willing to do ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to do, I don't know if you guys know, a training session. I used to train, it was a week-long training I had developed. And at the end of the week, we were all face-to-face. I actually made them all sing a song about and pull together a song of everything they learned. So they could take any song out there and change the lyrics to incorporate the things they learned. And then they'd have to do it in front of the group. I have done that. But I had two people I was training on how to train this program, and they'd never done it. So guess what? Their first time out, I made them do it because I said to them, number one rule, if this is what you want to do and you want to be a leader of people, you cannot expect anyone to do anything you're not willing to put yourself out to do. And I will actually do it with you. I have no problem.
Right. And that's the leadership is showing them how as well, right?
Yes. So, and they were both like totally terrified. They were excited about other people doing it, but not themselves. And I'm like, let's do it. We're doing it, girls. That's it.
Yes.
Because you're absolutely right, Jack. Absolutely no way you should ask somebody to do something you're not willing to do. No. Loving and caring is, James is saying.
And that's great to be loving and caring, providing you do it with boundaries so that people don't take advantage of you.
And for love and care yourself first.
Yeah. And James Scott, he has that.
Yeah.
And somebody else was, what else was up here? Expectations. Can we talk about expectations? Expectations can sometimes leave us in a position of wanting. We expect something from somebody, but it depends on what it is. So it needs to be broken down further, Amber. That's just how I see it. So I can expect, let's say you have a partner and you have certain jobs around the house that you do. Here's an example of an expectation. You might outline, well, this is yours, this is mine. And the most part, like one person does the outdoor activities, one person does the indoor activities. And then so those could be one form of expectation. The other one is that another expectation could be that you can honor our relationship and you don't step outside or you don't gossip about me behind my back. So they're still going to come down to standards, because if you only expect and never tell them or never establish what some of those are, if they need to be established, it's still going to be, there's not going to be any boundaries. So boundaries are interesting. So there's ways to look at boundaries. I look at boundaries like kelp in the water. They're meant to move and flow because nothing is static in relationships. If you have a person who has bad boundaries, you then need a wall that they can't penetrate your boundaries. Mm-hmm. If you have holes in your boundaries, then they can come through and they give you a dig. I'll give an example of the like a domestic, I don't know if you call it domestic, but the cycle of violence, right? You go along and all of a sudden tensions build and then you have a blowout and somebody hurts the other person. There'd be an example if they get through your boundaries and then you make up again and then you go into those shaky walls. So it's really important that you break that down more. Something might be important to you, but not your partner or other people. So it's still deciding it for yourself, right?
Yeah. Just going to pop some of them up here. I forgot I could do this. I always forget. And
that's the other thing in families, being an enabler. That's another conversation for another day. But when you if somebody's abusing somebody in your family and you do nothing, you're complicit. You're as guilty. So there's no boundaries and there's no respect in that family if you allow that to happen. And I've heard so many women have told me different things, that the uncles had a few cocktails and I won't go into what they've said, but then all of a sudden something happens and then family laughs. Because, you realize he was about to do your daughter. Oh, that can't be happening. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of there's a lot of misuse of boundaries and respect and self-leadership. Self-leadership is you don't do that.
Yeah.
I have standards. I don't care who you are. You don't do that.
And Lori said compassion and empathy. And that's when you actually have to be really careful that, and that's where boundaries come in, is compassion and empathy, because that has been used as a cover to cover up stuff as well.
And compassion and empathy, what it comes down to, that from my experience, is the individual person. If you have more compassion and empathy for others than you do yourself, you're not leading yourself. You're being a doormat. So you can have as much compassion. If you can explain why you are as deserving of compassion and as empathy as the next person, then chances are you're more intact and have more self-esteem, and you're going to put your needs ahead when you need to put you first, and put others ahead when you feel it's appropriate that you put them first. And there is a difference, but it's really knowing yourself. Yeah, say what you mean what you say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And this is what we're going to start holding other people. So once we do our own self-leadership and we establish this for ourselves, now we go out there and we hold other people accountable. You lied to me. That's not cool. I can tell you 5 times you lied to me that I didn't realize until this particular time, and I don't accept this, and I don't accept your friendship anymore. Done. Right? So this is what we're going to come down to. We're not going to give people the benefit of the doubt. I didn't know. Well, you should have. You're old enough now.
You weren't paying attention, and oftentimes we're willfully blind to what's right in front of us. And we've all been there. This is them saying we've all probably turned a blind eye to something that we probably shouldn't have.
And it's good to know that once you clear that, this is good, Betty, because let's take that to the next level. Once you clear that you've done things you shouldn't have done, that you almost go through the 12-step program, you apologize for things that you did to others. And if it's going to hurt them, you don't tell them you did something to them, but you write a letter. And if it's sincere enough, and you put the apology energetically out there. But the key is that you don't do it again once you realize it's wrong. And this isn't about blaming anybody. We've been told so much bullshit about what priorities are in life and how life works, that we have made mistakes. But the idea isn't that we continue making them. We look back at it and say, I shouldn't have done that. I didn't realize that was harmful to somebody else. And maybe you didn't have the upbringing that taught you boundaries and morality, or taught you how to lead yourself, or give you the confidence that you needed to make good choices for yourself. So you're people pleasing. All kinds of things are in this. So we're not blaming anybody or.
No. I mean, I can think of something as benign as okay. I know that politicians lie, and I remember. I was really upset when Dalton McGuinty first got in, and everything he promised. And I was telling people he's lying. I could feel it through the TV. He is lying. There's absolutely no way he can do everything he's saying. And you know, he still made it in. We don't know if it was.
We all know now. The more evil you're willing to perpetuate on somebody else, the higher you go in the system. Like,
yeah, but I actually, there's a watchdog group supposedly in Ottawa, and they basically told me, well, the Supreme Court of Canada, I don't know if people know this, but the Supreme Court of Canada, when Mulroney was sued because of his lies during campaigns, basically they came down with the people expect politicians to lie, so it's totally okay.
So this is how we've allowed the system. These people got promoted because they were willing to turn a blind eye. So I know people have talked about what's going on in the family dynamics, which is important, but it's also the bigger picture. We expect you to lie. Really? Do you expect me to punch your lights out?
Yeah.
Oh,
the kicker is how do I make a decision if everybody is lying? How can
that's how you go
Canadian people make a decision on who they're going to put in office if everyone is lying about what they're going to do? That makes no sense. There's no accountability, but we have all gone along with it. And we are complicit in.
We were, but we didn't know. And we're waking up, right? So we were complicit, but we're not now. We didn't know. Now we know, right? So yeah. We didn't. So did you blame? So this is all part of making sure you don't put yourself into self-blame or self-shame. We
did know. We just weren't paying attention.
I didn't know a lot of the stuff, but now that I do know,
I'm talking about the court case with Mulroney. I actually do recall it. I was like, whatever. And a lot of people probably did, and we don't pay attention to what's going on, and it was on the news.
So look at the parents who protested the sex ed curriculum. There's like 5,000 people at those rallies, but it wasn't in the mainstream news, so people didn't know, and you said you didn't know. So it's not your fault that they've lied to us, but it's our responsibility now that we know to change it, right?
Yes, but that was in the news. That's what I'm saying. That was in the news back then. This is you're talking like 20 years ago. So
okay. I don't remember.
Right, because Mulroney was in 20 years ago, wasn't he? And back in the 90s.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know there's something about paper bag and getting money, and the guy who gave. Oh,
that too. He got that too. And then he cried. He cried. Oh, I'm so sorry. And then he was let off. So, whatever. Corruption.
Joe's got an interesting comment here. My fear is telling people something to hurt them. So I guess not truly being honest. Got to work on that. So sometimes you can break that down even further. Is it something they need to know? Is it something that's just your opinion and it doesn't matter beyond your thoughts about it? Is there an action that you need to take? If there's an expectation of behavior on their part, how are you going to say it? And if it hurts them, if they're transgressing on you, who cares if it hurts their feelings? So you got to break it down a little further. And so when we break all of these situations down further and we look at it, what is mine? What is this person's? Does it need to be addressed now? Do I need to make a change going forward? Do I need to let this person know their behavior is not acceptable to me? Am I willing to walk away once I tell them I do not accept this behavior? Because if you keep saying, I don't mean you, Joe, but if people keep saying, I don't accept it, but you keep tolerating it, they're going to keep doing it. So there's all kinds of things to unpack about hurting them. I don't like to hurt people, but nor do I like to take any crap from anybody.
Well, I think, and when I saw that, I was thinking along the lines, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but things like when people ask you questions like, do I look fat? Am I good at this? And no, they're not. And they're asking for validation of the opposite of what they know they are. Correct me if I'm wrong. And, we have to
add that into the mix, add that possibility into the mix too, because they might be setting you up to humor them.
Yes.
Right. So I had somebody ask me, am I that fat? And I looked at the person and I thought, you talk about your weight you need me to tell you that you're over 200 pounds. Like I just looked and went, I didn't answer. And I'm like, You need me to tell you what your weight is? If you don't like your weight, change it.
I think I said to you, because you told me that story, I was like, does she not have mirrors in the house?
Yes. Right? But it's like, don't waste my time with your little silliness for me to esteem you.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And us as women do that a lot.
Some women do.
Do we look fat in that?
So here's a good one.
On me?
Here's a good one for the guys. If somebody says, do these jeans make my ass look fat? Just say, I prefer your buns to your rolls. Change it, like just change it up a little bit, and do not answer that question because it's a setup.
Yeah. And I mean, we do that a lot. I mean, society does that a lot, and women do that a lot, actually.
Some do.
Some do. And some men do.
Yeah.
Some men do too. I've seen it in men too, but it's a pretty common thing. And then it makes it difficult because you don't want to hurt their feelings. They already know.
They already know. They're asking your reels.
Do I look fat?
They're abusing you because they're trying to put you in a position that they have power over you because you're going to go along with them. So it's just another mind screw.
And it's actually energetically, you would probably lie to them. And so energetically, that actually brings you down because now you're lying on purpose to save somebody's feelings instead of saying, you know what? You need to feel comfortable in your own skin. It has nothing to do with my opinion. Is it an easy way to get out of it?
Totally.
You do you. If you're comfortable that way, my opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah. And you don't, if you know it's a setup, don't buy into it because you know they're going to set you up with something else. Yeah?
Sorry, use not fat. Use just fluffy. I love it.
And that's a great way of not buying into their stuff. You answer it, but in a cute way. Yeah. Hey, just fluffy. So that you're not buying in. Well, what do you mean by that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. And those are the things where, and not doing those little white lies because we think that there's nothing to them, but there is. It does energetically change things. When you lie, your body knows you're lying.
And when somebody wants you to lie, to humor them.
Yeah.
That's where you set your energy up. Like, don't waste my time with this stuff.
It's a setup. It's a setup to hurt you on an energetic level because it does hurt your body to lie.
And that's where all these games are coming out right now that we're seeing people for their true characters. Not that they've got mental illness, their personality defects are starting to surface, right?
All right, Kyrie, I love you. I would just say, yes, you do look fat. You don't want to know. If you didn't want to know, don't ask.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, we're not supposed to do it in a hurtful way, but it's like, yeah.
That's a great boundary there. They're not going to ask you a question that they know the answer to if you're going to tell them the truth that they don't want to hear. So that's a great answer. And I would be more inclined to say something like that too, that just seriously, you know what I mean? Like, why are you asking me this question? I've had a few women pick fights with me because they want me to tell them that they're slim. I'm like, if you don't like your weight, do something about it. Like, I've never commented on your weight. You know?
And it's a pull on your energy, and in a very unconscious way a lot of times, because it's been something we've been taught to behave like. It's that positive reinforcement of a negative situation.
Totally. And even Amber's saying that I'll be glad when all of the same, we're on the same vibration, so we don't have to deal with the bullshit. And this is what we're trying to show everybody, that you have the right to stand in what is true and what you know to be true, and the right decisions for yourself and lead yourself. And I think one of the natural laws or the spiritual laws is do no harm. If you're doing something that's not harming somebody else, what does it matter?
Yep.
You know, that person, if they don't like your behavior, they can leave.
Yep.
But we don't have the right to control each other, right? So what are some other traits of self-leadership? And I put down like being confident, empowered, believing in yourself. That is so important right now. Believing you are entitled to good things, that you are deserving of good things, that you are capable of amazing things. But having that belief in yourself, especially if you didn't get that as a child, it is so important that you become your own parent now and give yourself that kind of belief that you know that you are absolutely amazing just the way you are. And it doesn't mean you don't want to change things. You might say, maybe you are 10, maybe you gained the COVID-19 like a lot of people did. Doesn't mean you're not amazing, but you say, I'm going to lose that. And you still strive to get what you need out of life, right? And what you want out of life.
Yeah.
But these are just some of them. Being astute to me is self-leadership is about being astute and just discerning and saying, I'm not sure about that. I got to think about that before I get back to you on that. And having the ability to stand up and just know that you don't have to bow and bend to anybody else's whims. So being willing to push some boundaries, Jack, that's an open one. I'm not quite sure what that means, but it's not, are you pushing boundaries or are you standing up for yourself? And so I don't push boundaries, but if somebody pushes me, I will put that boundary right back at them.
Well, we're seeing our boundaries being pushed
totally
by the powers that be on a scale we've never seen before. And that's why it's so important to actually have those boundaries and to trust yourself. And it doesn't matter that they're trying to censor us. The truth is the truth, and you cannot keep it quiet. Yes. And that's the key. They are not telling you the truth. They're trying to shush the truth, and it will not stand. The truth will always rise to the top. And that's what we have to remember. And
there's absolute truth. There's absolute truths and there's relative truths. And absolute truth is that this liquid that they're trying to get people to take, it's not a V, and it has never been isolated. That's an absolute truth.
Yes.
A relative truth is, well, you need to get it because you want to make sure everybody's safe. That's not even a relative truth. That's a lie. A relative truth is, I'm going to be there shortly. Well, what does shortly mean? Does that mean you're going to show up in 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours? Because it means different things for different people.
Yeah.
But that could drive the other person nuts because they're thinking you're going to show up in 10 minutes and you don't show up for 3 hours. And they're like, I've been waiting for you. So there's a relative truth. So sometimes we need to break down truths into when it's appropriate for a relative truth and when it's appropriate for a absolute truth. I absolutely have the right to decide for myself what is in my best interest.
Absolutely.
That's the truth, right?
Well, that's now, as Kyrie says, mental illness. What is mental illness? Well, that is mental illness now, to actually want to be able to make choices for yourself. That's a mental illness.
So look at what mental illness is. So they call mental illness depression, anxiety, eating disorders, addictions, maybe like a behavior, compulsive behavior. My opinion, all of those things are symptoms of being abused.
Yep.
Mental illness is that you will do whatever you need to forward your own agenda and don't care about other people. That's like the mental illness to me is a personality disorder that you're stuck in your head and you don't care about the consequences of your behavior. But then anybody who's listened to me speak about certain things, I think the mental health industry are all sociopaths, psychopaths, or just highly dysfunctional. And it doesn't mean all of them, but the majority of them. You do not give your power to somebody.
The training puts them in that position that they're not able to actually properly care for somebody.
No, and they're above you because they get to sit and diagnose you. So then that strokes their ego that I'm the expert.
And it puts a lovely label on your chest or right on your forehead. And then it becomes a crutch. And this is who I am. It becomes part of the I am. And instead of being I am, and I think that's one we didn't, is knowing who you are, is that I am strong. I have integrity. I am.
That's a great idea for self-leadership. Do call out 9 things about yourself that I am. Yeah, I am amazing. I am. I love the fact I'm curious, or even things that you love about yourself. I love the fact I'm as curious as I am, because that opens me up to things that I didn't know or haven't learned yet.
Yeah. Yep.
And I can say it unabashedly, like I'm not embarrassed. I'm not being arrogant when I say that. I love the fact that I'm curious.
Yes. Hey, if we weren't curious, we wouldn't be here right now, would we? Talking about all of this stuff, and these guys wouldn't be here if they weren't curious. It's actually important. It's very important to want to know the truth, or and I do believe we only know maybe a tiny little fragment of truth, and even some of the truth that we are holding as truth right now may not be the truth, but it's just being open. I am open to knowing the real truth, the truth that really is, and not hold on too tightly to the things that I think I know. But it's a journey, right? What you believed 6 months ago is different than what you believe today. Who you were 6 months ago is different than you are today. A year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we change.
And it's okay. And there's a great point here about Mike Lindell that they're going after his past behavior. And it doesn't matter. Maybe you've done things you're not happy about or whatever, but you know if you're not doing them anymore, that it doesn't apply, that they're just trying to take you down a peg, because that's what evil does. That's what the sociopaths and the psychopaths do. And they're losing so much of their power. They have no choice but to attack anybody who's standing up. They're taking out people's shows. They're taking out their YouTube channels. They're taking out all kinds of stuff, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And he owns it. It's not like he's ever hidden it. And that makes it harder for them to discredit, because he owns it. This is who I was.
And we don't know what happened to him that got him in that position in the first place. And we don't know what he overcame. And he doesn't care anymore because he's not even focusing on it.
Not a issue
what he said now.
anymore.
He's not moved past it, right?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, every 7 years, you're a completely different person. Your cells regenerate. So every 7 years, you're completely new.
Yeah.
Brand spanking new. And let's do something good with every day as these cells change. So that person we're going to be in 7 years from now is
going to be a better version of ourselves than we are.
Right? Even more amazing than the amazing we are today. Totally. Think about it that way. Like, we just keep building and building and building, and
that's what we're supposed to do.
Exactly.
The human experience is, right? Testing ourselves to be the best we can be and have fun and enjoy ourselves and love doing it.
Yep. Right. All right. Well, we're at 1:20.
It's time to, yes.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I always say we're going to try to stick to the hour, but we never do. And Patty and I can't do it either.
No.
we get on a roll, and then
you can hear the common denominator.
It's so great to see what you guys are saying, and
totally. And appreciate everybody's comments and their participation, and just sharing a bit about how we are all growing in this movement that we're making, the self-leadership and self-development and self-confidence, right? We're all coming into this together.
Yeah. And I actually, before we go, I want to say stay strong. I think some pretty crazy days are coming. Yeah. And that's where we really need to be able to stand firm in who we are, what we want, what we don't want, and don't let anybody sway you.
Totally.
Don't let anybody sway you. We have to stand firm. And that is that part of that self-leadership. And regardless, whatever shit they throw is all temporary.
And if you don't know what an answer is to say, just say, I'm not sure. I'm going to think about that. And you still stay in your integrity, but you don't have to do it on their timeline.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. Beautiful. You don't have to have an argument about things, but do not compromise your values.
Don't go against yourself, totally.
Or your boundaries or anything. And they are going to be tested in the next few weeks.
Totally.
They are going to be tested. And that's why this was such an important video today, and really thinking about what it means to be self-led, what it means to be strong in ourselves. And really, this is the time to be unshakable.
Totally. And as Lori said, stay fabulous, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're going to be like the tree. You want to be rooted like a tree. When the wind blows, the leaves sway, but your feet are still planted in the ground. And that's what you want to be. That's that unshakable. Yes, your leaves are going to sway, but you are not moving.
Great analogy. And to add to even on top of that, so when we are all together, we stand stronger in a forest, that the trees can grow straighter than that one lone tree out on the edge of a shore blowing in the wind by itself, because it can get bent and taken out of its true shape. So this is why it's so important that we're all together as well doing this, because we all grow and stand tall together and strong. And as you said, rooted, right?
Yeah. And that's the big thing, is rooted. And if we're all rooted, guess what? Every root of every tree, they all speak to one another. So we're all connected.
Yes.
So as we are connected in this, we're standing firm, we become the tree. We actually get to communicate.
Yes.
On a very deep level.
And we're changing all of how we operate in this planet. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Love your comment.
Love you all. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Yes.